Yes, ladies and gentlemen, how's everybody doing? Welcome back. And in a minute, we're going to be bringing in the Irish man himself, Mr. David Harris, as we go through all of your views. The focus of discussion today is really about Antonio Conte, but there's a few other bits and pieces in there. We'd love to get you involved in the conversation, so make sure you smash that like button, smash the subscribe button if you haven't already. We're only 5 away from the magic 3,000 now, but make sure you get involved in the comments as well. Love to see what your thoughts are as we go through this. Ladies and gentlemen, the Spurs Talk Show, it starts right now. Oh, wait a minute. No, it starts. Where's my thing? I can't find it. All my stuff disappeared. All my videos have disappeared. There we go. The Spurs Talk Show, ladies and gentlemen, for the 15th time. It starts right now.
Lovely touch from him though. Harry Kane, Lucas Moura, can you do something, please? Last chance, Matt Doherty! Oh, you shite! There could be from the depths of don't fuck it up now, don't fuck it up. Go and win it. Let's go for the chance. Stephen Bergwijn through. Win it, Stephen. Come on! Yes! He's won it! He's gonna win it! Oh my God! Oh my God! We did it!
Yo, check this out, ladies and gentlemen. It is Thursday evening. It is the 2022 version of September the 15th. Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. If you're new here, welcome. If you're not new here, welcome back. Smash that like, share, and subscribe button. Hit that notification bell because you know we go impromptu. We don't do scheduling on this channel. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get this show underway. Welcome, please, to the panel. My man, you know him as Ireland's #1 Harry Kane fan and Ireland's top 5 Tottenham Hotspur fan. I know him as one of my favourite players, favourite people in the world, if I'm honest. Please welcome, he's Dave Harris. How you doing, my man?
Oi, first of all, let's correct something around here, Shawnee. I'm Ireland's #1. I'm not in the top 5. I'm top of the pile, baby. #1, my man. How are you keeping, Shawnee?
I'm good, mate. Yeah, good. Yeah, it's been well, actually, I've had a bit of a stressful day, but in general terms, I'm pretty good, my man. We've got a lot to talk through.
A lot to discuss. A lot to get through, my man. I'm not happy after the Champions League game during the week, lad.
Well, let's start right there, man. We haven't spoken about it since Tuesday night. Obviously, you were doing your watch along. I was doing mine, so I didn't get a chance to see or hear your initial thoughts. Well, and what are they, or what were they at the time?
I'll be honest. I thought it was the performance was actually borderline disgraceful in a Spurs jersey. If I'm being quite frank with you, Sean, for me, I thought 1 to 11. Everyone was poor. I thought Harry Kane was absolutely abysmal. His passing was way off, and his stats will reflect that. For me, I think coming out of that game, Sean, I also think if you're going to play and persist with Emerson on the right-hand side, you also have to play Kulu Sexy there, because Kulu Sexy actually makes Emerson look somewhat competent, in my opinion. Richarlison has to learn to play in that front three. I think it's too many flicks and tricks, especially in the first half I've seen. Too many times he's giving the ball away. For me, Kulu Sexy adds a different dimension on that right-hand side, where he can take the ball in, he can hold it up, he can run with it. And he has a good link-up with Kane as well, which we have not seen in that front line. And when he runs with that ball, he allows Kane and Son to not even touch the ball, just head straight for the box and get themselves in scoring positions. So I think I would like to see Kulu come back in to maybe bring a bit more balance to that front three. I thought Emerson was absolutely atrocious. Yeah. Absolutely atrocious.
It's the worst performance I've ever seen from him, and there's been some bad ones.
It was absolutely diabolical. I actually thought Perisic was not equally as bad, but he was bad as well. Same old thing, Sean. I keep saying this about Tottenham. You know, when Kane and Son do not score, or when any of the front line don't score, can that defence hold out? And the answer yet again is no, it cannot. You can't keep relying on your players to score every single week. Like, we've scored 2 goals nearly every single game this season, and then scored 4 in the Southampton games. It's inevitable where there's a game going to crop up where you don't score. But can that back line hold out? Answer again, no, they can't. And as well, I have big problems with what's happening at the end of halves. Marcus Edwards danced through about 8 players at the end of the first half, and only from a freak save from Hugo Lloris, he kept it out. Yeah. And then towards the end of the second half, one of their players danced by 2 of ours, unleashed a good shot. Hugo Lloris made a very good save, but I didn't like what I seen after that, Sean. They're all congratulating each other, high five, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, we're playing against a team beaten.
Yeah, I remember that.
I said it to Jack during the watch along. I said, don't get a good feeling. I bet you we can see from this corner. And what happened? They can see from the corner. So I've issues with Hugo Lloris's captaincy as well. I have a few problems coming out of that game. What was your thoughts, Shawnee?
Much the same.
Sorry. Conte as well. Because I know you were saying to me last season, you know, I struggled to criticize Conte and stuff like that. But the reason why
not just you, everybody. Everybody had this hands-off approach to Conte's tactics, and I didn't like it. I thought some of his tactics last season left a lot to be desired, and look, he got the job done. So, and also, what do I know? I'm just a fan, right? So I'm not saying that I know better, but I think that now maybe the time is people are starting to realize that he's not infallible, and people are starting to get a little bit frustrated.
Do you know what it was last season for me, Shawnee? When I knew he only had the bare 11 that he trusted, I struggled to criticize anything he'd done, because for me, he was getting the best out of with a system out of that 11 to get us where we needed to go. Now, this season, I don't understand why he waited till, 78 minutes to bring on Kulu Sexy. He should be brought on after 55, 60 minutes. And it could have been a right wing back either for Emerson, to be honest with you, like he'd done against Marseille. And he could have made more changes. He could have made tactical changes during the game. He could have took off a defender and brought in another midfielder or whatever he wanted to do. So, and he had the options on the bench to do so, in my opinion. So he doesn't escape criticism. I think everybody has to take a portion of the blame.
Yeah, and we're going to get into that in a couple of seconds. It's one of the next questions coming up. Obviously, did a Tottenham walk about it yesterday, where I went through kind of my stance and thought there's elements. The team isn't complete, but we've got enough to be able. We should have enough to be able to beat a team like Sporting Lisbon. We should have enough to be able to beat a team like Marseille more convincingly than we do. So I don't think there's any excuse. I think that if you look at Tottenham's squad to a man, with the exception of 1 or 2 players here or there, Tottenham had better players, better technical players and gifted players on the pitch than the vast majority of Sporting, with the exception of maybe Pedro Porro for Emerson, and maybe you could include Marcus Edwards. But apart from that, Tottenham have better players, so there's no excuse to be completely to go to sleep at the end. For what it's worth, I don't really think that it was. I did say in the pre-match pump-up with you, I thought it would be a 0-0 draw. It could easily be a 0-0 draw. I thought it was a boring game. I thought it was going to be a chess game, and it was, right? I think 0-0 was the fair result. But listen, you've got to play to the 95th minute. Tottenham didn't. Tottenham's turned off. And I asked the question yesterday, and I believe, but although, I mean, I'm going to preface this by saying some of the things I've seen today from Conte's press conference about certain fitness of certain players, maybe that explains it a little bit, but I do think that there's a real problem with this 5 sub addition to the game. I think it changes quite a lot. I think late in games, teams that utilize the 5-sub rule, they could have half of your outfield team fresh going into the final 10 minutes of the game. And so, if the manager of the opposition was to specifically choose to go after one particular area of the team and freshen that whole thing up, they could have the entire one side of their team completely fresh, and then make it a tactical decision to go and attack down that side, in the last 15, 20 minutes of the game. Tottenham have that option, but they're not taking it. And to me, it's a double negative. If like I said in my video earlier yesterday, if you are, who knows whether that goal would have been scored, whether that Arta would have scored the goal, right? You don't know what would have happened had Doherty been on the pitch or had Jed Spence been on the pitch. But what you can say is that it's a significantly less likely outcome if you've got a 100% fully fresh Arthur, however you say his name, trying to get past a 10% Emerson, who's run ragged, low battery Emerson, versus a 90% Jed Spence or a 90% Doherty. So I think that not only do I have a problem with some of the tactics like before the game, I don't necessarily think the formation's working. I think we're going to talk about that.
That second goal, Sean, do you think that was more of a case of giving up? Because when I was watching it, and I watched it back since, just that part, because I couldn't watch the whole thing back, it was boring me. But just that part, like when we tipped off, we just gave the ball back to them, and there was no urgency to go and try and press to win it back. We just watched them dance through us. Like, the game was over their heads. They already were defeated. Instead, they should be sitting there going, okay, there's still a couple of minutes left. Play it to the final whistle. Launch everything forward we can and see what happens and try and salvage this. But they didn't. They gave up for that second goal. If we didn't concede that first goal the way we did, that second goal wouldn't have happened. We gave up.
100%. Just want to say a quick happy birthday to David Clark. Big up, bro. Terrible game, a terrible birthday present to watch that, mate. But hopefully you're enjoying a nice glass of wine or something this evening, and put your feet up, and hopefully we can entertain you for the next 84 minutes, more than Tottenham did in that 85 minutes of the game the other night. Listen, I agree with what you're saying. I'll come back to the comments in a minute. By the way, I completely forgot to actually welcome people in from the comments. I do apologize. I just get so caught up in wanting to get this stuff off my chest. And Dave, I forgot to say hello. So I'm saying hello to everybody now. Welcome to the show. Thanks for stopping by. Do hit that like button for me, guys. And if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button. We are only, I think, 5 subscribers away from the 3,000 number. So hopefully we can get through that even by the end of the show. Listen, mate, I think you're right. I think they switched off. I think they switched off for the first goal. I don't know what was happening with the marking, both Emerson and Harry Kane. I think it might have been Harry Kane that lost his man. Although from the replay I saw, it wasn't clear because I think Emerson had somebody else as well that was he was somewhat marking, somewhat not. So. And that player's a donkey, that Paulinho, right? So you need your best header of the ball up against him. It should have been Eric Dyer, or maybe Harry Kane would have been the right person to do it. But for whatever reason, that goal goes in, and then your heads drop, and they go in and take full advantage. It's unacceptable. Whatever happens, if Tottenham are supposed to be this team that have this grueling training regime, then there's 2 outcomes, right? One of them should be that you should be able to be fit enough all the way through to the end of the game, and I'm not saying that fitness and concentration are entirely the same thing, but certainly one affects the other. If you're exhausted, you're more likely to switch off. And so I don't know.
They had 6 days off. They're lucky they didn't play City at the weekend. Imagine what we would have seen if they did play City at the weekend. They had 6 days off. They shouldn't have been tired.
Yeah, it's scary, isn't it, mate? I mean, I don't know whether it was a blessing in disguise. That is one of the questions I've got to you, got for you in a second. But listen, I want to just, we're going to stick with the game, obviously, for most of the show and talk about certain areas of it as we go through it. Before we move and look forward towards the Leicester game, or say look forward, but through gritted teeth. But look, Tottenham in Europe, our away record is absolutely shocking, right? I think you have to go all the way back to the second qualifying round and the third qualifying round of the season of the Europa League season 2021. Oh, sorry, season 1920 to find the last time that we won on the road. I think one of them was against Genk, and I think the other one was against Plovdiv in Bulgaria. Right. So I mean, we didn't win a single away game in the Conference League last season. We obviously haven't started well this season. Is this something we need to be worried? Like, is this a real concern? And if so, what do you put it down to?
Do you know what? It is a real concern, Sean. And I'm even more concerned when I was reading Ben Davies' quotes today where he was saying, we were still in the game. It's like, no, Wrong attitude. We should have been dominating that game. Not sitting there going, oh, we're still in the game. We're still in the game even though we played poor. Wrong attitude. Come out and apologise. Look, Sean, I'm not surprised. Some of these same players, again, and I don't like picking on the lad, but it's these words after these defeats when they happen drive me mad. Against Vitesse last season, what happened? He blamed the atmosphere. He also said it was a tough atmosphere out in Sporting. Now, what's wrong with this guy? Can he not deal with an atmosphere? He knows he's going to play away.
Yeah. Excuses, right?
It's excuses. But, Sean, I heard these excuses after Vitesse. I heard them after NS Mora. I heard them after Dynamo Zagreb. You know, I heard them after Pacos de Ferreira. These results keep happening. We keep getting embarrassed away. And they've got to stop. I think it comes down to a mentality issue. Even before the game, they're all sitting there like, you know, applauding Marcus Edwards, this, that, and the other. You should be sitting there focused on trying to stop this guy so he doesn't embarrass them like he did.
Yeah.
You know? I think where we're at right now, we've got a sort of mentality where it's kind of split in the squad, in my opinion. You've got all the new guys that have come in the Conte era who you would hope has his mentality. And you still got some of the old guard that maybe are learning Conte's mentality. But, you know, from Pochettino's era, it was all nicey, friendly, everything else. That's why you're hearing players come out and complain against an atmosphere away, because it's not friendly for them. That's why you're hearing them big up someone like Marcus Edwards instead of sitting in the press and going, do you know what? Hope it works out well for the lad to move, whatever else. Hope he has a good career. But I'm gonna make sure he does not score against us today.
Yeah.
None of that. I just think some of the mentality, I think it's still a bit split from the Poch era and the Conte era. Because Poch era was all about high fives, clapping each other, best of friends, what you're watching tonight when you go home.
Yeah. Too nice.
Yeah, too nice. You know, absolutely ridiculous. Whereas Conte's all about winning. He punished them if they don't win, like he done today. I still think there's still that bit of a split. I think that was what comes down to it. Some of these players want the friendly atmosphere. It drives me insane. You're going away in a European game. Of course, it's going to be hostile.
And listen, if Sporting Lisbon's hostile, Eintracht Frankfurt's their fans aren't exactly known for a quiet day. You know, they're the ones with the flares and the big flags and the noise for 90 minutes. And then Marseille away is going to be a whole nother sketchy affair, right? Where it's just, I mean, Marseille fans are just absolute lunatics. So if part of the reason why Tottenham as a team don't do well away from home is because they're not used to these foreign environments and they get a little bit intimidated by the noise of the crowd in some of these other countries, then, you know, I personally would have said that Portugal would have been the most favourable of the three. And if they're panicking about Sporting Lisbon, I shudder to think what it's going to be like if Davies is selected for the Marseille game. Terrifying.
Just go back and look at some of these squads, Sean. I mean, you know, Vitesse, Enes Mora, Ben Davies played. Dyer probably played in a couple of them. Yeah. You know, you go back to Zagreb. The two of them probably played as well back then. You know what I mean? So I think Davies definitely played. I think Dyer might have had a part. And some of these players are just involved in some of these results, and they just cannot handle it. And when I hear Ben Davies saying the same thing about the atmosphere after Sporting game, like he did after the Vitesse game, what's he doing playing in Europe away games then? Just bring Lenglet back in. You know, the guy's got vast experience across Europe. Play him.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the questions I'm going to come to. Well, actually, we might as well talk about it now. You know, so do you think that the goal that could have been with Marcus Edwards, had it not been for that ridiculously good and fortuitous save from Hugo Lloris where the ball went the other side of the box, that would have clearly put paid to Eric Dyer's England chances. Yet he gets called up today because Eric Dyer was twisted and turned by that kid. For 90 minutes. So was Ben Davies on the right-hand side, but on our left, down their right. But, I mean, look, do you think the solution, not just for the next European game, but certainly starting for Leicester, you know, we haven't quite seen any you know, quote-unquote nightmares from Longley yet. He definitely looks better with the ball. I said this to you in the pump-up show last on Tuesday afternoon, I personally think that Davies is a little bit of a better defender, but you know what? If his performance on Tuesday night was anything to go by, then, you know, for me, I think you have to bring in, and it's not a case about rotating Longley for Davies. For me, it's a case of now at the moment you've got to bring Longley in and keep him there, because, you know, playing centre back in a back three isn't as exhausting as playing, you know, a Højbjerg in the middle or playing, you know, a wing back role, right? If you're playing as a centre back, you probably don't need to be rotated quite as much as you would do in other positions on the pitch. So to me, I think the case is closed on where we go next with the centre back on the left hand side. I think you have to give Longley not just the game on Saturday, but an extended run in the team.
Sean, when we done that absolutely amazing pump up for the sporting game, it's a shame the team didn't follow our lead. To be honest with you, it was a piece of art. That it really was. Like, I forgot where I was going. Oh yeah, Davies. So I remember saying to you on the pump up when the lineups were out, Shawnee. I remember saying this could come back to bite us. It will affect our game.
Yeah,
passing going forward. Look, he's just not as good as Lenglet. He doesn't offer the game down that left-hand side. He takes away from Perisic's game. Anytime the guy went forward into the final third or ventured forward, Ben Davies lost the ball. And then defensively, he got spun a good few times as well. We've just got to put an end to it. And I said this as well. If you said to me the Davies of last year, fine. But it's not the Davies of last year. And I said this over the summer. Some of these guys, they've had one good season. Can they keep it up? Can they back it up the following season? And I had my doubts, and I was right to have my doubts, because I go over the course of 8 years. I don't go over what the course they've done of just 1 year.
Yeah.
They made massive improvements, but can they keep that up in a Conte regime? And they're proving to me this season they can't. I thought Davies was awful defensively and on the ball, to be honest with you, against Sporting. And when it comes to Eric Dyer, I just think he's been the beneficiary of what's gone on with Harry Maguire, what's gone on with Tyrone Mings at Aston Villa and stuff like that. I think he's been the beneficiary. Look, England, you'd say their weakest position, where normally it's been their strongest position down the years, is actually at centre-back right now. So, of course, he's going to be the beneficiary of that. But if he plays, that's going to come back to haunt him. John, we've seen the same thing with Eric Dyer over the last few games. He keeps coming out too far. He needs to realise he's the last line of defence. He keeps coming out too far, and he's getting
he does.
He's
not fast enough either. He's not fast enough to get back.
Kept saying this, Shawnee. Keep persisting with the same thing. The definition of insanity. Keep persisting with the same thing, expecting different results.
Yeah,
we're not getting different results. They're starting to revert back to type. And
who do you think is more? Who do you think is more of a liability, Davies or Dyer?
Look, I think Dyer is okay with Lenglet and Romero either side of him, but he's still look. The both liabilities, Sean. Both liabilities. I think if you put Dyer in beside Romero and Lenglet, they cover enough times for him. They're able to speak to him and coach him, whatever else. When you put Davies with Dyer, it's just mistake after mistake. They make each other nervous. One gives the ball to the other one to try and progress it out, and the other one gives it back to him to try and progress it out. Honestly, sometimes I think I'm watching a clown show.
So, is there any? And by the way, I've seen Kev's comment here about Romero, because I do think that I take what you're saying just a minute ago, Dave, with regard to players, doing well last season. Can they bring it on? And I also take your point about let's judge them over a longer period of time, which I'm guessing is why you wouldn't throw the same mud towards certain players like Sonny, or whatever. But I think that you have to. I think if we're going to be really honest, the only person in the team who was in the team last season, who has started this season generally with an improvement, is probably Pierre-Emile Højbjerg.
Yeah.
He's slightly better than he was last season. I know he was terrible against Sporting, but he's generally put in a decent shift. Everybody else, Decky, when he's played, I know he's come on and looked busy, but he hasn't started the season the way he finished last. Obviously, Heung-min's son hasn't. Harry Kane, I know he's your boy. I know he's everyone's boy, but I think he's been like the 4 or 5 goals that he scored has covered up a little bit. I think some of his performances, his general touch, his general awareness, his positional play, the weighting of his passes, all the things we come to expect of a guy that is the very best at what he does. I feel like the 4 or 5 goals are overshadowing a little bit a problem with some of his form. And then you go down the back and you're right about Dyer, you're right about Davies. They haven't started the season as well, despite the fact that our defence has been fairly solid and hasn't really leaked too many goals. And Romero, since he's come back from his injury, he doesn't look like he's got, and this is Kev G's point here, Romero doesn't seem to have that same bite. He doesn't want to go in there and smash anybody like he used to. When was the last time, Dave, that we laugh, yeah, look, Romero, we love that guy, when he does those like he did all in the summer, and all last season. And to be fair, he did it a couple of times in the preseason.
He'll be back.
Yeah? Look,
last season when he came back from injury, it took him a couple of games to get back into it, and then he flew. He'd be fine again. He's had a couple of games now. I guarantee you now he'll push on. And when we talk about the defence keeping the clean sheets and what have you now, I said this time and time again, look at the teams we kept them against. They're all down the bottom of the table. They're all fighting relegation at the minute. You expect to keep clean sheets. You could put me and you out there, I'd still expect us to keep a clean sheet, Sean. You know what I mean? It's like I keep saying this to people. You don't rely on your defence as much when you're scoring goals. So you're relying on your forward line to win your games. But when they have the off game, that back line has to learn to hold out, and they cannot do it. They proved that last season, only that Newcastle beating Arsenal covered up for it. If we didn't get top 4, we would have been talking about that back line all summer long. But because we got top 4 and Newcastle done us a favour, no, it's grand, it's perfect, this, that and the other. It's not the case. They cannot hold out when the game is in the balance in the big moments. Yeah. And it's got to change. Same things, corner kicks. We've been banging on about it since Jose Mourinho. How can not one of them fucking defend a corner kick?
Also, I can't believe that guy, Gianni Villa, we've employed on whatever it is, £500,000 a year. Yeah, he's only a set piece specialist for going forward. He's not someone that he's not a specialist for defending set pieces.
Even if he was setting them up defensively, at the end of the day, you can have anybody to set them up, but you can't make them have that inner desire to be the one to go and win that ball. You look at the likes of Dyer, Davies, Perisic even, who backed off that guy and let him get that shot off. Yeah. He danced by Perisic. Davies stood there in the box with his hands behind his box, in the box. Dyer done the exact same thing. Not one of them came out to put pressure on him to close him down.
Yeah.
So then when that mistake happens, where's the grit between your teeth to make up for that mistake? To go and be the one to clear that ball, to be the one to back up what Hugo Lloris is after doing 2 minutes ago. It's not happening. And I've seen this. I've seen it in preseason against Roma, and I called it then. You know, Dyer made a mistake, got caught out of position. Where's the desire to go and win that ball to make up for it?
Yeah.
It's not there. They do not have it. You can't expect them to get it all of a sudden. They just don't have it. We've seen it under Jose, we've seen it under Nuno, and we've seen it under Conte. They cannot deal with set pieces into that box. They lose every single one of them. And it does not help now that we've now reverted from man marking to zonal marking. When you're zonal marking, you're responsible for a certain zone, but you're more or less always caught on your feet. Whereas when you're running at the ball and you're not being man-marked, they automatically are going to win that. And that's why you keep seeing them. Every ball that comes into our box, we don't win the first one. We very rarely win the second one unless it's sitting around our feet. It's because we're stationary. They have the momentum and they're up ahead of us every single time.
So what's the idea? What's the argument then for zonal marking? Like, why have we gone to that system?
Well, I mean, we tried man marking.
Didn't work either.
So why not try something different? And it's still not working. And that's because the level of some of these defenders, and I hate to say it, I don't get enjoyment sitting here calling out these guys. I don't get enjoyment. I just want everybody at Tottenham to be at a certain level. But they're not. And we covered it up all summer by going, oh, well, they're the most improved players. Well, of course they are. We're not going to sit here and go, oh, Hugo Lloris, Kane, Son, they're the most improved because they're always at level. They were so far off it. They had such a scope to improve.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point. So let me ask you this then, before we move on to a little bit about Conte and some of the things at the actual title of the show. Whilst we're talking about the defenders, to me, I'm sitting there thinking, well, what options do we have, right? And if the three that we've got, and listen, at the same time, I do want to. We are fan shows and you have to react accordingly from what you see. But at the same time, it's one defeat in 18. We're still undefeated in the league, right? Yeah, so it's not like panic stations. But I just think for me, it's the level of the performance. Like the style of football is Yawnsville. It's boring. And that's why I want to talk a little bit about later on towards the end of the show about, is there something else we can do with the formation? Do we have the players now that we've signed some new blood, when they are getting up to speed, could we maybe move to something like a 4 at the back? Could we put someone like Longley next to Romero in as a midfield too? Longley has played in a back 4 for Barcelona. I think he was at his best in a back 3 personally, but he wasn't bad in the back 4. Maybe you could then have space. Maybe that's Emerson in his rightful position at a right back. Maybe you could put Sessegnon on the left, and then you could have normal 3 in the middle, and then rotate Perisic with Sonny as an additional option up front. I don't know. We're going to come to that a little bit later on. But before we do, I just want to finish up with the centre-backs. Now that we have Longley, we still have Sanchez. Is there any justification for an idea that's going around my mind that maybe you could switch it up a little bit, and rather than it being Longley, Dyer and Romero, or Davies, Dyer and Romero, could you see a situation where maybe you even thought about changing Dyer and Davies, get both of them out of the team in a cup game, just to see what happens if you get into the Carabao Cup, maybe against Forest, or maybe if we get a different team in the 4th round, where you would try something like Longley, Sanchez and Romero, or put Romero in the middle of the 3, put Sanchez on the right, put Longley on the left, or even put Longley into the middle in place of Dyer. So you have Davies, Longley and
No.
Romero. Anything like that?
Look, I would be willing to try fucking Longley and Romero have to be either side. That's no discussion, no debate there. And that's purely because of their ball ability. If we want to relieve the pressure on the back line and have most of the possession, we've got to have them two in that game, because by having the ball, you don't ask them to defend as much. So it's only really the middle of that back line that is up for grabs. And look, if they want to take Dyer out and bring in Sanchez, I'd give it a go. I have no problem with it. I'd give it a go. I just want
in the centre, right? Because the problem with Sanchez, he's a decent defender. He didn't, what was it, 8 hours without conceding. But the problem with having him on the right hand side is that his ball playing abilities is woeful. Now, I guess in the centre, you still need to have. Sorry, mate, go on.
The only thing with Sanchez, Shawnee, is his passing isn't the best. Can he move that quick enough to Dyer or to a Langley, to a Romero? Because sometimes the guy does need 2-3 touches to get it under control.
Yeah.
And I fear teams will press him more than what they would with Dyer, because they know he's bad on the ball. And I'm not making this up, by the way. Everyone just has to watch the Arsenal All or Not in the last episode when the Tottenham game came across. Arteta said it, Tottenham make 2 passes across that back line. They play themselves into trouble. And that's where you see teams usually then press, push up man for man. So a lot of managers would know we have problems with that back line in terms of passing out. Look, I'd be willing to give Sanchez a go, but I do have my doubts. I think Dyer maybe is a bit quicker or a bit more confident on the ball than him. But look, I'll be willing to try at this stage, because we have to find a solution that when these games are in the balance, we have to learn to hold out.
Yeah, 100%. All right, we're going to move.
What do you think? Because
well, listen, I'm not someone who hates on Davinson Sanchez. I've always thought he's a solid defender. He can also lose his concentration. So I'm not suggesting for a second that he's the perfect fit. And I definitely think that one of the major mistakes, this is what I said in my video, right? Because a lot of people after that result on Tuesday night were saying, well, it's Conte. Conte's too stubborn. He refuses to make subs. And what's going on with the picking of the 11? And there's some information that's come out today with some of the press conferences and the comments from him that does shed a little bit of light on maybe the limitations of what options he has. But there's the other half of the fan base, and they're typically people that are of the Levy out narrative anyway. But when that result happened, I heard in various channels all over Twitter, some people went, you can't blame Conte, you can't blame the manager. It's not the manager's fault. It's Levy's fault. It's always Levy's fault. And like I said in my video, right, I understand why they feel the way they do, because I too have my frustrations about the window. I think that everyone agrees. I think we're short of a right wing back who's significantly better. We're short of a centre-back. We just discussed that. And we're short of a potentially a creative midfielder. But for the options that we have until January, if there's any more kind of catastrophic late errors from Dyer or from Davies, I've already made my mind up. I want to see Longley with an extended run in the team. So Davies definitely can take a sit down on the bench for a while. But when it comes to Dyer, I think that I wouldn't go too crazy and just change it like that. It's a bit too dramatic to change two centre backs at once. But I do think that we keep an eye on Dyer, and if he does, get twisted and turned like he has done in the last couple of games, I do think there's maybe a justification to try Sanchez in the middle. I take your point that he has got sloppy feet and he can't necessarily get it out of his own way to whip that ball into the right areas quickly enough. But I think that maybe there's an angle there. Whether or not we need it before January, I don't know.
Do you think Conte could employ a system with the defence where when Langley and Romero are fit, play a back four, but when they're not, you revert to a back three? Or do you think that's too much chopping and changing?
What, during the game?
No, just even say if Langley and Romero are fit going into the game, you start with a back four and get an extra body in midfield or whatever. Yeah. Or if they're not fit or one of them aren't fit, you revert to a back three. Do you think Conte could do that, or do you think the chopping and changing would affect us in the long run?
I don't know. I don't know how intelligent the players are to be able to kind of adapt that, mid-season. But I do like the idea. Like it's on my list to talk about. We'll talk about it right now. For me, and I've seen someone saying, we're focusing on the defenders giving the midfielders and the forward line a pass. We're not. Like, I certainly not. We're moving up the pitch now, but now we're going to talk about it. For me, it's not just about the performance or the results. Sorry, the performances they look languid, they look lazy, they look sloppy, and it's so boring. Conte ball. I had no idea how boring we are to watch. I literally the watch along I did the other day was the most painful couple of hours of my Tottenham viewing football, especially online. It was difficult to find the way to get motivated to talk about it. I always, at one point, felt like saying, "Sorry, guys, I'm going to end the stream because I can't. I'm falling asleep here." But for me, I think that starts. I think that the three at the back system, I feel like it's a little bit predictable. I feel like good managers these days. It's like anything in life, like tactics evolve. And I feel like maybe, just maybe, we are too predictable, too rigid, too stubborn, and other teams can just set up with that additional man. If teams that are like from 11th down in the Premier League can play 4 at the back, then why can't Tottenham? Like if you've got Longley and you've got Romero, maybe you couldn't have done it when you had Dyer and Romero. Right. You certainly couldn't do it when you had Davies and Romero. But maybe with Longley, you could go to a 4 at the back. I don't know what that would mean for who you'd play on the left and the right backs. Maybe you play Sessegnon rather than Perisic, and on the right hand side, maybe you play give Emerson another go. But for me, I think that so much of the problem is not just about us getting overrun in midfield when we only have 3 in there, we only have 2 in there in Højbjerg and Bentancur. But I feel like it also, having a third man in there would also just free up the space. It would allow Sonny to have more space to do what he does. He's not going to get crowded out by Perisic, and I think Decky could come in and be more utilised as well. For me, I think the 4 at the back would be a system that I'd love to see us get to. But the one time we've seen it employed this season was in that little period against Chelsea, when we went 1-0 down and we went to a 4-2-4, got the goal, but then were completely exposed. We didn't kind of course correct quickly enough. And when Tuchel made those changes, we got exposed. So I'd like to see it, but I do think it comes with certain risks at the back. What are your thoughts?
Look, I was never a fan of a back 3, but I was willing to give it a go under Conte because something had to be done with that back line. It was shipping way too many goals under Jose and under Nuno. And it's one of the areas of the pitch where we haven't really spent money on since that Pochettino era, since we let go of Jan Vertonghen and Toby Alderweireld. We brought in Joe Rodon, who was never going to come in here and replace any of them. You brought in Romero, and now you brought in Langley on loan. That's all you've really done at centre-back position. You haven't rotated anywhere near enough. And the warning signs were there from Jose when he tried to play the back 4, whether it was Dyer, Sanchez, whether he brought Davies in at left back, or left side of the 2 or whatever. It just was not working. We were getting absolutely destroyed. And the same under Nuno. So I'll be very hesitant to switch back to a back 4 until we get the players to play that. Okay. In my opinion. But if
persevere until January and then go and try and find a centre-back, whoever it is. I mean, I don't know who's available, but find someone that can sit in the back 4 and then change things up, yeah?
Yeah. 100%. Look, everyone knows my feelings on the January transfer or on the summer transfer window about a centre back. It's one I really wanted. It's a problem I could foresee coming, and it's come back to bite us in the ass yet again.
All right, mate. I'm going to move on to I've been saying it for 20 minutes, but we are going to move on to the Conte stubborn thing in a second. But just got a couple of super chats I want to get through from Dermatron. Dermatron, what's happening, mate? Thank you so much. He says, "Big up, guys. In Conte, we trust. On to Saturday." We go, let's put Wednesday behind us because we are going to have a special season. I can feel it. Very positive stuff from you, Dermatron. Really appreciate the super chat, my man. Listen, I'm still positive as well. I think that Tottenham haven't clicked into gear yet, but with every performance seemingly, just it's lackluster. It's boring. It's more for me. I want to see Tottenham start to play exciting football again. And for me, mate, I know we can put, I think it was Tuesday behind us, but the game against Leicester, and I think that the Brendan Rodgers came out and said that they are going to try and play attacking football on the weekend. So it should be an open game, and I want to see Tottenham go at it and play with some real vigor and some real pizzazz to kind of quash a little bit, of the discon or the uncertainty and the discontent that's starting to bubble up amongst the fans. What are your thoughts, Dave?
First of all, I just want to say today with Dermot's super chat as well. But what I've seen in and around the fan base, I see the awful lot. Look, just get behind the team. I think everybody's behind the team. But, we are here to talk about Tottenham, whether it's good, whether it's bad. We are here to have a conversation on absolutely everything. And not everything is always going to be positive. Like, we're after being slapped up by Sport, and I'd say embarrassed in Europe again. It's a team I expect to beat. It's not so long ago. These guys were United's feeder club, where United used to send players out on loan to them. We should be beating these sort of teams. And I think, the performance reflects the way a lot of these channels work. If it's a bad performance, you're going to get people sitting there being honest and giving their honest opinion on things. When it comes to the style of play, I fully understand it, but we have to remember when that clicked for a period of 6, 7, 8 games last season towards the back end, we were smashing teams when the front three were on it. And when I look at what's happening over the last while, the front three are not on it. It's not working. Even when we're getting the ball into the final third, it's a shit pass. It's an under-hit pass, over-hit pass, losing the ball, too many touches, trying to take people on when you should be passing it. It's not clicking. When that clicks, the formation will be fine. The style of play will be fine. We will score goals. But until we can get that front three clicking, we're going to see this. But like I said, when the front three aren't clicking, that's when you rely on the back line to be able to help dig you out and get results. And we're not sitting here talking about what we're talking about. But I think right now, the style of play is suffering because we can't get the front three into the game.
Yeah, I agree. And when the ball does get put up there, I think the decision making of the front three, whether it's Harry Kane getting the weight of his ball, whether it's Richarlison. I'm torn with Richarlison at the moment. When we first signed him, I was like, I don't like that valuation, 60 million quid. I got shut down a lot for it. Then as he's come into the team, I've fallen in love with his energy and his character. And so I've come out and said I hold my hands up and I was wrong. But the more I think about it, it's like there's two different sides. I love his character, but I'm still a little bit underwhelmed by him as a player. I don't necessarily think he's got that finesse in his foot, that weight of pass, and sometimes the decision-making that he's certainly no decky when it comes to his passing ability. And Harry Kane obviously looks a little bit just disjointed and just all out of sorts. And obviously we know that Sonny, like I said 1,000 times, I do think that part of the problem with Sonny is his confidence is down, which is compounding on the problems. But the problems, I think, start by him being overcrowded in that area of the pitch by the system we're playing with Perisic.
I think it was Dean Saunders said that today. He came out and said something similar, that the formation wasn't helping Son's performances.
Yeah. That's what I've been saying it. Dean Saunders can plagiarise me all he likes. I've been calling that for a few weeks. But listen, I think that something needs to change, which is why I think that when Doherty gets back into the team and Emerson gets rested, or Jed Spence, I think that opens up more balance. I think it allows more opportunity to go down the right-hand side, which inevitably will make the team less predictable in the way that they set up, the way that they move the ball. And ultimately what that will do is that will give, I think, Sonny a little bit more room or a lot more room to be able to work with. And then all he needs then is when he gets his chances to take it. And then suddenly I think we're cooking with gas. But
me and you both said something similar over the last couple of weeks about Sonny, where we've said a lot of his goals and a lot of the good performances and where he's most dangerous is when he's running in behind, not when he's touching the ball and in the build-up. It's when everyone else is doing it. And he just makes that short burst sharp run in behind and the ball 100%. Is on point. That's where he got a lot of his goals, and we need to get back to that. Right now, we're asking Sonny to hold up the ball and stuff like that. And it looks like, for me, there's been a slight reversal of roles with Son and Kane, where last year Son was the outlet. And on a lot of tactical breakdowns from games, where Kane was the one dropping in, doing all the hold-up play, and Son was the one furthest forward. Yeah. But now when you look at it, Son is deeper than Kane, and Kane is a lot of the times the vocal point, and they're one a bit further forward. I think the roles have reversed slightly. Now, for me, I would reverse them back, because Kane will still get goals. So just he's proven that last season. So get him back to doing what he was doing, and get Sonny making them runs in behind again, because even the best bits we've seen of him this season, which hasn't been much, has been balls in behind for him to run onto. Yeah. So we need to sort of get that figured out, because asking him to be involved in the build-up play and hold up the ball when he's not in space, it's just not working. He keeps getting out-muscled, keeps getting the ball taken off him.
I 100% agree with what you're saying, and I also think this is going to be an unpopular opinion, but I do think that Perisic's introduction into the team, the way that Perisic plays, is very different to how Sessegnon plays. Sessegnon was a wing back, a left wing back who didn't really get forward that much. He would usually pass the ball back, but him stepping back a little bit, I think, allowed Sonny to have that more space. With Perisic's first intention is to overlap down the left hand side. I just think that it forces Sonny, first of all, 5 or 6 yards further infield, and I think he's also receiving the ball back to goal, which is not something, like you just said, which suits his skill, his character, or the way that he gets his goals in the past. So for me, I wouldn't be surprised if you saw that Sonny was better, and I haven't, I can't remember the specifics here if this is a fair comment yet or not, but I'm going to keep my eye on it and see how does Son perform when Sessegnon is playing at left wing back, doing what Sessegnon used to do last season versus Perisic, because I do worry a little bit whether Perisic's style kind of cramps Sonny's.
I don't know about that, Shawny. I don't know about that. I think, look, they're both world-class players. I think, world-class players can play with each other and strike up a relationship. I think, Perisic does play a lot further forward, but even when Son has been, I think what's not helping Son is because I think he's roughly had in and around the same amount of shots or chances he had to start of last season. So the start of last season, we didn't get many. It's just Son was clinical when he got an opportunity. This season, he hasn't been as clinical. Where if he was, we wouldn't even really be talking about it right now. He's had just as many shots. He's just not
block shots though. I feel like the shots he's taking are like almost he's giving up on the play. Sometimes he runs and he gets himself in that position. He runs across the edge of the box and he knows that there's a guy just running alongside him, and he just has a crack anyway, and it just smashes into the body. Like the amount of block shots that we've had is like 50-60% higher than it was last season. So we're just not creating the space. That's how I see it. But listen, I'm not entirely convinced on my own argument on that Perisic-Sonny thing. I'm just going to keep an eye on it and see where we go. Adrian Chia, big up Adrian. He's saying the Conte at Chelsea was great. He changed the system mid-game. Yeah, this is what we're gonna come on to right now. Just keep smashing that like button, guys. I think there's 150 odd people watching, and we're only at 50 likes. Can we try and get up to 100 likes if possible? Smash that, help me out. Be really grateful.
The like situation was matching the performance from Wednesday night or from Tuesday night, Shani.
It's free to do it, guys. Just do that little thumbs up thing. I really appreciate it.
All right, and smash the like.
Look, let's talk about that, right? So, Adrian Chia, thanks for the super chat, by the way, my man. Really appreciate it. He says, he changed the system mid-game. The old Conte was a little bit more proactive. I think you saw the same with Jose Mourinho. Peak Mourinho at Chelsea, when things weren't working, super proactive. Like, he'd still be 0-0 in a game, maybe even 1-0 up, but just looking at it and going, this isn't working. And in the first half, he'd rip somebody off and then bring somebody else on. We don't see that that style with Conte anymore, right? So I'm just going to call out a couple of quotes here, mate. And then, because this was a comment that was left on my video yesterday, and I thought it was really interesting. He said, I forget who it was who said it, so shout out to if you are watching and it was you that wrote this. He said, look at this Conte quote made before the Sporting match. And I quote, sometimes it's better to rest and don't start a game, to come in and play only 20 or 30 minutes and then play the following games. For sure, I'm here to try to change the old habit. The old habit was that the players were used to playing in every game. That was the quote. And then the guy carries on saying, then he makes just one substitution, which was Sonny, and persists with Royale and keeps Højbjerg and Bentancur on the pitch after all three had yellow cards. It doesn't add up. His words don't connect with his actions. Now, there are some other quotes that we're going to go through as we continue the conversation that might explain some of that when it comes to Skippy's fitness and Doherty's fitness and Bissouma's abilities. But just quickly, not quickly, take as much time as you want, but just in general, are you concerned by Conte, the fact that, he plans out his strategy and he doesn't like to change it? It usually takes him to give a rocket up their arse in the halftime team talk for us to play better periods of the game in the second half. But he doesn't utilize the bench. So, is he stubborn or is he just limited with his options?
Do you know what? Look, I disagree that he doesn't change it in games where we're out of the games. Like, you go back to Chelsea, he went back to a 4 at the back at one stage to get us further up the field and get us back in the game. You go back to Leicester last season, what's clipped in your intro, he went to a back 4, reverted to a back 4 to get us in the game and go and push on. Where he's reluctant to do it is when the game is tight. When it's a very, very tight game, it's a very even game. That's where he's reluctant to do it. If he would have pulled the trigger first Wednesday night, we would have went on and won that game. We had better quality come off the bench. You could have brought Kudu on. You could have brought on Jed Spence for Emerson. He was that bad. What have you got to lose by bringing on Jedi Spence? You could have brought Bissouma in. I think it's a myth that he doesn't know how to change the game. He does know how to change the game when we're not in it. But when it's a tight game, I think he sits there and he backs the guys that's put out there. And they let him down, in my opinion. They let him down. Yes, he could have made substitutions earlier, and he should have. But I'm not going to sit here and think I know more than Conte. This guy walked into a Tottenham Hotspur football club, dragged a load of players that were pissing about under Nuno, got fed up under Jose Mourinho, wanted Ryan Mason in because he was all buddy-buddy with them, and he dragged them to one cohesive unit and brought them to top 4. So I'm not going to sit here and question Conte. The guy's done an absolute miracle at Tottenham. He's done a magnificent job.
Correct.
The fact that we were talking Europa Conference League and being bet by Enes Mora and Vitesse, and now we're sitting in the Champions League and we're at the top of the Premier League, and some people are putting us to maybe pick Liverpool this season and grab second with the start they've had. Look, for me, I don't think ripping up the script is the answer. Why would you rip up the script and go with a different formation that has got him to top 4 in the first place? I just don't get it. Now, look, I also don't really buy the excuses. Maybe Ollie Skip, yes, but Basuma, there was things before where he came out and said, oh, tactically after the West Ham game, he still has a bit to learn and all. Doesn't matter. Put him out there. You need a game changer. So, yeah, he could have done better against Sporting, but look, I'm not here to have a pop at Conte. I'm not going to have a pop at him either, because what this guy has done at Tottenham is a miracle, and it's a myth that he can't change it. He can. Like I've demonstrated, it's just when the games are tight, I think he backs his boys, especially against lower quality opposition. But where he does need to learn is that they've let him down. They've done it last year against Brighton and other games like that. They've let him down when he's backed the boys in tight situations to get over the line.
So you don't blame Conte. So part of the thing that I had, one of the questions at the start, which I haven't really gone to, again, the title of the video yesterday was, who is to blame? Was it Daniel Levy? People want to blame Levy for not filling the spots that we needed, or Paratici, whatever. Was it Conte for not using his bench and taking advantage of the 5-sub rule, or was it the players on the day? So you're saying it's not Conte's tactics?
No, I think he could have made substitutions. He could have, but I'm just explaining maybe the reason why he didn't make the substitutions is because he backs his team, he backs his boys, he backs the boys that he put out there. They're also off the back of 6 days rest. He probably looked at it, tight game, but my quality will shine out, and it didn't. They let him down. The same against Brighton last season, against Burnley, against Man United. When games are in the balance, they let him down. So, I mean, maybe that's a lesson he needs to learn, but he should have changed it earlier. He should have. But I was just explaining on maybe...
No, I get it. I hear you. 24Z here saying, Sean, thoughts about the press conference. He doesn't like how Conte's downplaying a quality player like Bissouma and completely leaving out Spence in his talk. We're going to take you through some of that. I wish I got I had more time today to have got these quotes up on the screen for you. So I'm just going to have to read them out. But I talk about, we were saying part of the reason that I suppose in my talk was saying, in my video the other day was saying, was Ugarte more or less likely to be able to put that ball through to Marcus Edwards if he's up against a 90% Bissouma or a 90% Ollie Skip rather than a 20% Højbjerg or a 20% Bentancur. Again, we never know the outcome, but I think it's less likely. And then I read this today about, and I'll read out two quotes all at once here, right? So he's on Bissouma, he said, and I quote, "Then there are players like Richarlison who went into the team quickly. Longley was the same. Perisic, the only player struggling with the tactical aspect is Bissouma. I try to take the best decision because I want to protect the player. When we play 12 games in 1 month, you need to be ready because I need all my players." So he's calling out Bissouma for the second time about his tactical naivety or tactical lack of preparation, lack of understanding. And then in terms of on Skippy and Doherty, he says, "I can explain because I like to be honest. Not only with you, but first of all, my players. In this first part of the 7 games, don't forget we have players like Matt Doherty, that had serious injury. And I said in the past, he is struggling a bit to come back as the player I knew last season." Well, first of all, then why the bloody hell did you play him against the K-League team 2.5 months ago? Silly. But that was not part of the quote. But quote continues, "For sure now he is improving a lot. And for now, it's the international break. He will have 2 games with the national team and he will come back and I will have the possibility to have another player with rotation. It's the same with Skippy because in this period, Skippy had a serious injury. He played his last game in January, maybe December. Don't forget Skippy. He's very reliable. He is a prospect, but I can count on him. He's an important player in the next few games. He can have a better physical condition and I can also count on him." So is he saying there, I'll let you run with it however you want, but is he, when I said, like, why the hell aren't we making changes? Højbjerg and Bentancur, both on yellow cards, like the previous comment called out, right? Why didn't we swap it? Is he basically saying one of them in Skippy isn't ready and the other one, Bissouma, still isn't ready, not because he's not fit, but because he's not up to it with the tactics?
Look, first of all, I want to stop this about, the tiredness. Look, they played at the weekend. We didn't. We shouldn't be the tired team. In fact, we shouldn't need to be making changes if you're going on the fitness levels. We had 6 days. They had 2 days, 3 days turnaround. So we shouldn't have been tired. It shouldn't be an excuse, to be honest, whatsoever. Look, when it comes to Bissouma, when he made them comments after West Ham game saying he still has a lot to learn tactically, this, that, and the other, I don't know. I don't know what's going on there, if I'm being honest. I'm not sure whether he doesn't
It's a weird
fancy
one,
it.
isn't it? He's called
It
him
is
out
weird.
twice.
It is weird. It is weird. Now, I don't know whether he's calling him out and looking for a reaction or whether he doesn't fancy him. I don't know what the story is. Look, you hear the way he talks about Højbjerg, very, very reluctant to drop that guy, and it's proven. The guy plays nearly every game for every manager.
Yeah.
He's very, very reluctant to drop Bentancur as well because of the ball playing ability. With Skip, he had him when he came in last season, and Skip probably offered him, and I would say more so what Højbjerg is doing this season, where he's the one that's kind of the floating midfielder, getting forward, doing a lot of getting involved in a lot of the build-up play, whereas Bentancur is the one that sits sort of deeper and picks up the ball in transitions. And I think Skip can come in and do what Højbjerg is doing. And with Skip, look, the guy is off the back of a long injury, a long layoff, and the kid's only young, so you do have to make sure you get that right, because the last thing you want to do is let the guy himself be overeager to get back, or you rush him back.
Yeah.
And the injury problems persist and get worse. You've only heard Marcus Rashford come out and say that recently, or Anthony Martial come out and say that recently about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, where he was like, of course my performance is dropped. I wasn't fit. The club knew that. Solskjaer knew that. No one came out and said anything about it. And I went through all this spell where I wasn't playing well. The captain put me out there, and eventually I felt betrayed because he loaned me out. Now, I think it could be the case with Ollie Skip. You can't put him out there if he's not fit enough to return. I trust their judgment on it, which I probably shouldn't, because we have a woeful record with that backroom staff, the stuff like that. But for me, I think, look, if he's not ready, he's not ready. But look, at the same time, how do you expect the likes of Bissouma, and even with Jed Spence, how do you expect them to get up to speed if you're not going to give them minutes? You can even give them, even if you bring them on for 10, 15 minutes at the end of the game, See, when it's tight games like we've been in, he's going to struggle to bring them on and give them minutes. If they're not up to it tactically, why would he put them on and put us in even more danger than what we already are losing that game? So I can understand it from that point of view. But for me, when it's a game like Sporting, you've got to make changes. You've got absolutely nothing to lose. You have to make that change.
Does that
He's just shit. We have to remember, Antonio Conte, Sean, didn't even want him when he first came here. He said it in an interview a while ago that he told Doherty, first of all, that he wasn't a part of the plans. And then Doherty went away, got his head down, worked on the game, etc., and then got himself into the team and played 6 good games, which everyone is lauding him for.
Well, but those were the 6 good games when Tottenham clicked. Right, that period last season when we were smashing teams, we smashed Everton, we beat Aston Villa 4-0. Obviously, Doherty got injured in that one. We beat Newcastle, I think it was 5-0. There was a period of 6 games, right, that when Tottenham first started to gel and first started to see that Conte ball could look pretty attractive. Doherty was in no small part the catalyst for that. Not only did he get, I think it was 4 assists in that period, but I think he got 2 or 3 goals as well, which was, it was mind-blowing for everyone to see. And to me, I think that's why I keep talking about the balance of the team. I think when you bring him back in, if he can recapture that little period, I know it's only 6 games, but if he can, under the Conte system, I think it will create more balance. It will make us less predictable to defend against. It will keep the opposition guessing, because there'll be chances for him to go on the right and there'll be chances for Perisic to go on the left. And I think all the benefits of that, the indirect benefits of that, it opens up more space for Sonny. And I think Decky can also recapture that chemistry that he had.
I disagree. When I look at Matt Doherty, he's had 6 good games over 2 years. He's barely played well for Ireland at the international, and he plays right wing. He's played right wing back there before he played right wing back at Tottenham. And he honestly, at times, he's just as bad as Emerson. Yeah, he can have. I've watched this guy at Wolves. You have to remember, with Ireland, we don't have many players coming through. So when a player is coming through, you hear about and you track his progress.
Pay attention.
Want him to come into the international duty. Doherty can have little spells, but he's not consistent. He's not consistent enough. And he's just as bad as well. If he doesn't have the midfielder inside to pass into, he's screwed. He's screwed. And even when he does try to pass it inside to the midfielder, 9 times out of 10, the pass doesn't make it. It's under hit. He's wild with it. For me, there's no point in persisting with a guy that was supposed to come in here and be better than Serge Aurier. In my opinion, hasn't been much better. There's a reason why Emerson starts the majority of the games and has done over him. Even before Doherty came into that team, Emerson was playing the majority of games down that side. Yeah. Emerson's not great, but he's the best right wing back we have until we see Jed Spence. He's better than Doherty. Doherty is not as good as anybody thinks. I've seen more than Doherty than anybody else. I've watched him at Wolves. I watched him in the Championship. I watched him for Ireland. I've watched him for Tottenham. I've seen more than Doherty than anybody else. And the guy is not the player that people keep telling me he is. Like, you keep talking about that 4, 5, 6 game spell, but when he went out, we still went on after to still beat teams in a convincing manner. For me, you've got to try and give Jed Spence that go at that right wing back. You've got to give the kid a run out. To say he's not up to that level, I disagree slightly, because he played unbelievable against Arsenal last season in the FA Cup. Played unbelievable last season against Leicester.
Against Leicester,
League opposition. He's in the England under-21 team as well. He helped get Nottingham Forest promoted. He clearly can play at that level. So for me, give the guy a go. And the thing is, we also can't sit here and say Tottenham haven't done enough in that right wing back position until we see Jed Spence in action. For all we know, it's one the club could have got right. We will never know until we see him given a couple of games in there.
Listen, I completely agree. And he strikes me as the sort of player that would take the opportunity. I think he's the sort of guy that would grab the ball by the horns. I think if he does get deputised on Saturday, I don't think having read because I was always like, Emerson has to go after that performance. He has to be dropped and you have to give somebody else a chance. And for me, I thought it was going to be Matt Doherty. But reading that comment, he's not going to play until after the international break at least. So it's either going to be Emerson or it's going to be Jed Spence. The fact that
I'm going to that early game, Sean, so I'll tell you what level Doherty's at when I've against Armenia when I'm finished.
No, nice. I appreciate that. Yeah, definitely fill me in. But I feel like if Conte has, in that press conference, spoken about Skippy, spoken about Doherty, he's spoken about Son, which we're going to come to in a minute. He's spoken about Decky. He's spoken about everybody. The only person he hasn't spoken about is Jed Spence.
No, he has spoken about Jed Spence before, Sean. He said basically that he's working away with a separate coach, working on things that apparently he's not up to the level yet. But like I said, I struggled to believe it when I seen him play against Arsenal last year. I watched him play against Leicester last year, and he was probably the best player on the pitch in both games.
100%. Listen, if there's ever a game that he would be a good fit for, following the shit show performance of Emerson during the week, and the fact that Doherty's not available, and the fact that Jed Spence smashed Leicester last season, then you have to think Leicester at home would be the perfect time to give him 45 minutes, or ideally the whole game, right? But I bet 50 quid with anyone right now that Emerson starts on Saturday. As annoying as that is, if Doherty's not available, I think Conte picks Emerson again, because we've spoken about this 100 times. Emerson and Conte have a bit of a bromance going on, and Conte's got a lot of love for him. I want to call this comment up from Americanka. It's really insightful. Big up, Americanka. Good to see you. She says, what's happening with Bissouma is the exact same thing that happened with Eriksen and Fabregas, benching them for not knowing tactics. Fabregas explained this. Conte is always this super meticulous. I didn't know that I didn't know that Fabregas had called this out before. Where was Fabregas when at Chelsea? Right? Yeah. Okay.
Chelsea. Yeah. And then Eriksen, remember, he didn't play for the first few months. He didn't play at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, okay, well, it's interesting. And it's fair enough then. But I just don't understand why it's so difficult for a professional football player to learn, to learn a new role within the same position that you've always played.
Do you know what it is, though, Sean? If it's very defensive, there's a lot more positioning to learn, certain movements, etc., etc. At that level, it can be. I'm not saying the guy's not intelligent. But if you're not the most intelligent, and look, even the most intelligent players, you can struggle to adapt to some certain tactics. It depends how complicated Conte's tactics are in what he wants Bissouma to do. At Brighton, Bissouma would have been their best centre midfielder, so he probably had a lot more license
to do whatever he wanted
outside of tactics to do Bissouma things. Whereas with Conte, he's not automatically stepping in here as our best midfielder. So he has to get to grip with the tactics. And that's where maybe he could be struggling a little bit. Because that's the only thing bad I've heard Conte say about him is, and he said that after West Ham.
Twice. He said it twice, hasn't he? Twice in a couple of weeks. He's not up to it tactically. It's quite an insult, really, isn't it? He's saying, is he calling him stupid? I don't know.
No, do you know what it is? It could be more of a discipline thing. And I'm not talking about attitude or anything like that. I'm talking about on the football pitch. With Bissouma, when I watched him at Brighton, he was a very free-flowing player. You know, he could be free. Whereas if you're asking him to do what Bentancur does, that's a structured position.
Yeah.
You have to be able to sit in front of that back line, move 5-10 yards either side, to be able to pick up that ball, get turned, and try and move it forward. And Bissouma may not want to do that. He may want to be in and around the middle, maybe be a bit further forward, because we seen when Bissouma and Højbjerg played together against Roma, we could not find any of them, could not get the ball to them. But then as soon as Bentancur comes back and he gets there, takes the ball off them and transitions it. So maybe he's not disciplined enough in whatever role Conte sees from in that midfield. Me personally, I think if you're going to play him in a role in there, and he's never going to drop Højbjerg because he loves him, but it's more Højbjerg's role, because if you look at Højbjerg, he's the one that's more free in that midfield. You look at him, at times he goes in beside Dyer to take the ball, and Bentancur's left, sitting in that deep role himself. When you look at Tottenham going forward, it's always Højbjerg, the one that is getting forward, the one that's in and around the edge of the box and stuff like that, involved in some of the build-up play. Not so much Bentancur. So Bissouma could be struggling to adapt to one of them positions, but if he was to get in the team, I would say it'd be more useful in someone like Højbjerg's role than Bentancur's. But the only thing I can think of is that he's using them to try and be more like a Bentancur.
Makes sense.
The actual discipline of the position.
Yeah, which goes to show that Conte plays not playing favourites, but Conte has his favourite. He absolutely loves Højbjerg. I think he loves people that work hard and that have the character, right? And I think if Højbjerg is that guy for him, then Bissouma, maybe Bissouma was signed thinking he'd take over Højbjerg, but Højbjerg, this is what I love about Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, right? I said it earlier. He stepped up. He's gone, ain't nobody taking my bloody position. This is my position. And to a degree, whilst that's a good thing to see from a Tottenham player, if that's keeping Bissouma out of the team, when I think the ceiling for Bissouma is way higher than Højbjerg as that kind of 8 role rather than the 6 role that Bentancur plays, then maybe it's a little bit of a double-edged sword that you're happy to see Højbjerg stepping up. But maybe if he didn't step up, maybe if he'd dropped back a little bit and was worried about and it hit him, the fear of losing his position hit him negatively, then maybe you'd have seen Bissouma come in, playing in the Højbjerg spot, playing in the more advanced role, and then have a little bit more trust from Conte and his ability to do that thing. Time will tell, my man, but it's certainly just a weird one to me to see him call him out twice in as many weeks.
You have to remember as well, like when that midfield is set up, it's usually set with one on the left, one on the right in terms of the two.
Yeah.
Now, when you see us play, it's usually Bentancur sits and Højbjerg gets forward, so it's kind of like one in front of the other. Now, but you also have your defensive duties. So when the ball says over the left-hand side, you have to be in certain positions, same as when the ball's over the right-hand side for this formation to work. And for this formation to work, everyone, I presume, when I look at it, they all have detailed tactics, positioning, where you need to be, where the ball's in certain positions, etc., where you need to be defensively and stuff like that. And maybe because it's so detailed and there's so much to get to grips with, maybe it's impossible for anyone to come in here and get to grips with it straight away either,
It's obviously a very specific role, specific tactics, and like Americank is saying, if a couple of players that are as good and as intelligent on the ball as Cesc Fabregas was and as Eriksen is, if they couldn't figure it out immediately, then maybe he's not calling Bissouma stupid. Maybe he's just saying, look, it's very deliberate. It's very, and like again, Americank says, he's very meticulous. Maybe it just takes a little bit of time, but when he gets it, and he will get it, he's on a long contract, so we haven't got to worry about that. Maybe we've got worried more about Conte leaving and going to Juventus, which we are going to talk about very soon. I just want to quickly say thank you so much to the guys who have called out the 3K. I think I must have hit it then. Well, apparently so. I don't know, but apparently it's saying big up on hitting 3K. Appreciate you all, guys. Thanks so much. It's been a really awesome journey so far. And hopefully many more years to come talking with you guys about football. I want to move on. I'm going to come. Actually, I'll call out the super chat now from Dermatron. Big up Dermatron once again, my man. Love you, buddy. He says, I was upset after Tuesday. Embarrassed was the right word, but now I'm ready for Saturday, to be honest, with Dyer dancing to the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack and Davies the wandering star. I worry off because I do.
Dermot must be having whiskey on the rocks. It's hitting that hard Wednesday night.
Not sure what the last.
Why are we doing the Saturday Night Fever? I mean, Dermot, that's not something I want in my imagination. Come on, Dermot. I'm trying to get over the result, man. I think he's on the whiskey, Sean. I think he's having ice with it.
Oh, I might join him as soon as this show is done. I've had a real tough day. I might go and crack open a nice bottle of Jameson's or something and see what's going to crack on.
Had too many fizzy drinks today. No more fizzies, Dermot.
Dermot Sean, thank you so much, my man. We are going to be starting to move forward now and looking towards Leicester. As I just want to get through some of the other comments, but absolute big up, smash the you're smashing it with the super chats, man. I absolutely adore you. All the way, also, guys, please smash that like button. How many likes are we on right now? We're on 80 likes, 140 people in the house still. If any of you haven't hit the like button, do me a favor and smash that for us. Right, mate. Let me talk about. I've done with the quote on Skippy and Doherty. Let me talk about Sonny, right? Let's move up the pitch a little bit. Asked if Sonny is undroppable. The Spurs boss said in the press conference, no players are undroppable. This has to be clear. If I say this, is only to help my players and to avoid injuries, to try to have players in a good performance. You know you can play one game well, another so-so, and another not. My job is to protect my players and find the right way to get a good result. It's the first time that he's been asked specifically about Sonny. And obviously the journalists are starting to put the pressure on, saying, look, if he's asking the question if he's undroppable, then the speculation that there's the intent there to say that maybe he should be dropped or rested. He's saying no one's undroppable. How do you pick the peanuts out of the pool on that one? Do you think that there's going to be the forward line that we haven't yet seen on Saturday? Do you think it's going to be Kane, Richie and Sonny? Kane, Richie and Decky? Or do you think it will be much the same as last time out?
I'll be honest, I'll revert back to what got us going last season, Kulu, Son and Kane. For me, when you look at that front line, Sean, Son's not thriving. Although Kane's scoring, he's not thriving. And although Richarlison scored 2 the other night, he's not exactly thriving either.
Yeah.
So for me, when I look at it, I'll revert back to basics because there's so many problems with it. Revert back to what you know last season. Kulu, Kane and Son, and start back from there. Put them out there and then start back from basics, and then hopefully you'll be able to identify where the problem is. For me, I think it's Kulu on the right-hand side. That guy has to play. Not only does he make Emerson look competent, and we know that because Emerson gets the ball down the right-hand side in the crossing position, Kulu pulls out, takes it off, and puts it in his left foot. Richarlison wasn't doing that. Richarlison was trying to do first-time flicks around the corner with Emerson. I mean, it's just... What are you doing? I mean, the guy can't cross a ball, let alone try and do things one touch. You know what I mean? It drives me mad. So for me, I think you've got to put Kulu there. What Kulu does is he picks up the ball. He can either play a pass himself or else he can run with it. And when Kulu gets running with that ball, he will take from halfway down to the opposition box without getting tackled. We've seen it time and time again with that guy. Has Richarlison done that when he played over there against Sporting? No. You know, so for me, I think you revert back to basics and keep Richarlison hungry coming off the bench because he also has to learn to adapt. A lot of the problems in the last 2 games is we're trying this one-touch stuff, flick it around the corners and stuff like that, and it's not working. Yeah. When we were working last season, the ball was coming in, someone was holding up, getting turned and playing the runners in behind. When Richarlison is playing there, that is not happening. We don't have enough players that can hold up that ball. So you need to put.
So are you worried about Richarlison then? That he's just where he's playing right now. It just doesn't quite fit the mode.
No, look, Kulu's sexy. It's right hand side is not for Richarlison. Maybe coming off the bench if he was to come on there for a couple of minutes, fine. But to start a game, to help us get forward in the attack, Richarlison playing on that right hand side is not working. Okay. Look, Richarlison, we have to remember was originally brought in to be Harry Kane's backup. Yeah. You know, when rest came from the Cup, FA Cup games, Richarlison comes in, you're still going to get goals. And Richarlison, for me, I think he's similar to Kulu. He likes to come in on his right foot. So, you know, he can also be a rotation player for Son. So, for me, unfortunately, until Richarlison can learn to hold up the ball and work with Kane and Son, he's got to come back out and put Kulu back in. But Richarlison has had an amazing start. He scored goals. He's helped us. His best impacts have been off the bench. But if we're being brutally honest with ourselves, we've more praised him for his shithousery and stuff like that.
Yeah. His character. That's what I'm saying. I fall in love with his character, but I haven't fallen in love with his performances. The headers aside in the Marseille game, which were sublime. I think his weight of his passing leaves a lot to be desired. I feel like he's had a couple of shots which have been scuffed. I haven't been that impressed with his performances. I've got to be honest. I was impressed. I loved his character. I love his shithouse, all that stuff you're talking about. But then I sit there and go, well, he has played better than Sonny. And you know I'm a meritocracy guy, right? So I feel like if you're not playing, if it's your place until you drop the ball. And then when you drop the ball, somebody else comes in and it's theirs until they screw up. And I think that should always be the case. And so I sit there and think, well, who is the best three on form of the four of them? And for me, I think it's probably a time that we saw Richarlison on the left just to start the game, Kane up front, and Decky on the right. I'd like to see it. We haven't seen that three ball start the game yet. I take your point. And it also, just last thing I'll say on it, it also brings me back to the whole idea of going to a back four. If you went to a 4-2-3-1 with Richarlison up front as the number 9, Harry Kane as a specific number 10 with Decky and Son on the right and left of him, and then you had Højbjerg or Basuma or Bentancur, whichever two you want in the midfield, and then still you could still have your Perisic on the left, your Emerson or Doherty or whatever on the right, and your back and then you wouldn't have Perisic in that situation. You'd probably have Sessegnon at left back. And then Longley and Romero. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but like I wouldn't mind seeing all four of them play. But yeah. I feel like if you have to drop one, I feel like right now, I think you have to see what Sonny's like coming off the bench.
Do you know what though, Sean? I look at it, right? And people use Mo Salah as an example. Now, what they won't tell you is Mo Salah played most of Liverpool's games last season and started most of Liverpool's games, but he was taken off early. The only games he didn't start or wasn't in the squad, the majority of them was League Cup games and FA Cups games, Premier League games, Champions League games. When the guy was fit, played every single one. And Liverpool fans, when you listen to them, back end of last season, they weren't happy with the guy. Started this season, they haven't been happy with the guy, but he still plays. The only rotation that was happening was either Mane would move out from the left or up front. But again, he still started all the major games, bar the League Cup games, the FA Cup games.
True.
People then mentioned De Bruyne. Go back and look at it. The only games De Bruyne missed in the Premier League, bar 3 where he started on the bench over the course of 38 games, he was injured for the rest. But he started in the Champions League games, started majority in the Premier League. My point is your world-class players, you don't drop them. They always play regardless. They play through the form. But what you do is you take them off early when the job is done. But we can't do that because the job's
never done. Yeah.
But the world-class players, when you look at them and the examples that people are talking about, they don't get dropped. It's a myth. They do not get dropped. They play regardless of their form. And the stats are there. Go back and look at them from last season.
No, I hear what you're saying, but like you could look at other players in the Man City team that came in under big price tags, like Jack Grealish, right? He's someone that commanded £100 million fee, and that has been. He was given his time, given his chance, didn't work out. People saying, "Oh, it takes a year to settle into the Pep system." This season, he's barely kicked the ball, right? And there's plenty of other other people I could point to in the Man City team that don't play. It's only teams where you don't have enough options. And my point is, we do now have an option in the fourth man. If Kane is always going to start regardless, if Sonny's always going to start regardless because they're two world-class players, what was the point in paying 60 million quid, which is the question I asked at the time in the summer?
To take these guys off early so they're not playing the complete. Like you see with Sonny.
But you could do that, but if you're only going to take them off.
You see Kane plays 90 minutes every single week. When you look at what happens with the likes of Salah, with the likes of De Bruyne and people like that, the examples that are being used, they're taken out of games early. They're not. They start the games, but they're taken out of them early. And that's where
when the job's done, though, right?
Yeah, they don't play the League Cup games. They don't play the FA Cup games. That's where they recuperate. That's where they get the rest from. With Richarlison coming in here, he was always going to have to come in here and have a point to prove. Now, he was given his chance on the right-hand side. It didn't work out. But that's the main opportunity. That's the main position where you might see the rotation is between Kulu and Richarlison, because they're the newest ones that have come in at the club. Kane and Son are established. They're established players are the ones that play all the time.
And that's where I disagree, right? I think if you're playing badly, I don't care who you are, if you're playing badly and there's somebody else that you've gone and spent what is essentially a club record signing on, then he should be given his chance in place of the person who's not playing badly, and it will shake the tree.
It depends on what you're like. We signed Richarlison to come in here and provide cover, provide competition. We didn't sign Richarlison to come in here and go straight into that first team, and that's where I think that's where people are maybe getting a lot of it mixed up. We signed him to come in here and provide competition cover. We didn't sign him to come in here and to come in and make an impact in that first team.
Yeah, but we didn't know that Sonny was going to have an awful start to the season. We didn't know that Harry Kane was going to be playing off the ball as well. We presumed it was going to be, the status quo. Sonny's going to get 25 goals. Harry Kane will get something like it, and most of the assists are going to come from the pair of them. It hasn't happened that way. It hasn't started that
Come on.
way. And so I think you have to adapt to the new situation. And for me, like if the argument is Richarlison's only ever going to come on for one of those two when the job is done, and if the job is done, then you don't need to spend £60 million on that player. You could have spent £20 million, gone and got an Emmanuel Dennis or someone like him if he's only ever going to play when the job is already done anyway. And then go and then with the 50 million quid or 40 million quid that you've saved, you go and like break the bank for the centre back or for the right wing back that we didn't do. Like, I think a lot of Conte and Paratici said at the end of the summer, like we got what we got, we got done what we could do. The money was spent. Right. So for me, the money was spent badly if you're only ever going to play Richarlison in place of one player, regardless of how bad Sonny or Kane play.
See, bringing in Richarlison, what we needed was someone a bit different to Harry Kane. That when, like, for instance, Marseille, get the ball out wide. And this is what I said last season. That's how you beat them teams that play that system, block up the middle, whatever else. Get the ball out wide, beat them, get the balls in the box. Richarlison has made a living off that at Everton. Done it at Watford as well. Someone like Emmanuel Dennis will not be able to do that. He just wouldn't.
Okay.
He's not
necessarily Emmanuel Dennis. I'm just saying
the reason why we paid the 60 million is to have that different option. Even if the game's in the balance, you can bring him on to be able to get the balls out wide and put it in the box. But Sean, big clubs do this all the time. They spend massive amounts of money. They don't walk into the team. Liverpool went into buying Diego Jota for decent money. He doesn't walk straight into the team. He still had to bide his time and find a position to get in. He doesn't start every game. This is what big clubs do, and we have to get used to that in this fan base.
I'm not saying that they should start every game. I'm saying, that he should walk straight into the team. I'm saying that like you want options on the bench so that you can have different alternative ways to play. And right now, the front three that were so great last season are not firing. And from that basis, I feel like you've got a guy who was valued at 60 million quid on the bench, and he either comes on in a position that is not his best on the right for Decky because there's this kudos lock, like points in the bag, wins in the locker mentality where Sonny and Kane are undroppable, allegedly not by, Conte's quote, but just regardless of how bad they're playing. I'm not saying that Sonny should be dropped and put on the bench forever. I'm not saying that Richarlison should come straight into the team because we spent 60 million quid if Sonny, Kane and Decky were firing. But I'm saying the situation is that they're not firing. And so why don't we try and see just for one game and see what happens? And of course, we'll never know what would have happened if we chose the other option. But why don't we see what happens with the three that we haven't yet seen start a game together? And that is Decky, Decky, Richie, and Kane. And I feel like there might just be a scenario where Sonny comes off the bench in the 65th minute, fresh against a tired Leicester or a tired whoever, bangs in a brace because he's got full of energy, he's got a point to prove. Voila, back in the team for the game against Arsenal after the international break.
I'm not opposed to that happening. If it happens, I'm not going to sit there and moan and cry and bitch and moan about it. But at the end of the day, I'm just telling people, what generally happens at these top clubs. These players don't get dropped, regardless of form. They're in there week in, week out. And where they really get their recuperation and rest is being hauled off at 60, 70 minutes, not being involved in League Cup, FA Cup squads whatsoever, which we haven't been able to do at Kane on the last few years. They've travelled in them squads and stuff like that. With Richarlison being there, you can hopefully give one of them the night off. And that's just generally what happens at these clubs. The stats are there. Go and look at them.
No, I get it. I hear you. I feel like, Tottenham is not Manchester City. I know we're trying to become like that, but we don't have the hundreds of millions of quid, to go and spend it on players and then let them not have a chance to see what they're like. I just feel like the system, the style of play isn't working at the moment. The front three aren't firing. We do have a plan B or an option that we haven't yet seen. I think against Leicester, there should be wholesale changes. And we're going to go to talk about that in a second, but I think there should be changes in the centre backs. There should be changes at the right wing back. I guess from looking at the comments today that we're not going to see any changes in the midfield, but there is an option to change things up front. And I think that a game against Leicester is probably the perfect time to do it.
Yeah, look, for me, I'm still going to stick with him. I don't think we've learned our lessons from the Harry Kane saga. I sat there for 3-4 months straight. I got absolutely caned. Excuse the pun, but everyone was after me because I sat there and I was like, no, you just don't drop Kane. He's undroppable and he's going to end up the club's top scorer, which he did. Across all competitions, end up the club's top scorer. And you stuck by Harry Kane. You played him into his form. He slowly got there. And we've probably seen, come the back end of the season, the best Harry Kane we've ever seen. And, we stuck by him. So why haven't we learned our lessons from that? Because I remember people telling me drop Harry Kane for Steven Bergwijn because he sprints faster. I remember people telling me, "Oh no, this is true. I'm not making this up. This is not true."
I know. I remember
people telling me, "Oh, Kane's done. He's he's over the hill. He's reaching 30. He's not physically anymore. Blah 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 blah." And I sat there and said, "Bullshit. Just going through a bad bit of form, and he'll come good." I walk off the old saying, "Form is temporary, class is permanent," and that's the saying I work off. And it's been around the game for hundreds of years.
I know. I get it. But like, you never know what could have happened in between the period of Kane eventually coming good, but whilst he was still playing badly. You don't know what might have happened had Bergwijn played in those games, right? You can't know both outcomes. I use this comment all the time.
No, we do.
Fair enough.
20-odd games under Jose Mourinho and offered 0 goals or 0 assists. So we do know what happens when Bergwijn's been given a run again.
Okay, but we don't know. Okay, but in this particular pertinent example, we don't know if we drop Sonny or rest Sonny on Saturday and Richie comes in instead and has a stinker, right? People are going to say, why did we drop Sonny? But because we know that Richie had a stinker does not mean we know that Sonny wouldn't have had a stinker. You can't know both situations, right? So, and I think you've now got a little bit of competition for places. And I think listen, it's just my take. For me, I still love Sonny. Still, if not my favourite player for Tottenham, then top 2, right? I absolutely adore the guy. And I know that he's still going to finish the season with 15 goals or more, right? No doubts about that. But I think that competition for places is important and your form should be representative. And if you're not playing and listen, like I said 1,000 times, they've all had shit starts to the season up front, in my opinion, relative to what we expect of each of them individually. None of them have been particularly great, but Sonny hasn't had a good game in 8, and I think that it's just it for me. I think it sends the wrong message to other players. I know that his sensitivities need to be considered, but I think the sensitivities of other players need to be considered as well. And I think that the best interests of the team have to be paramount. And whether or not Conte thinks that Sonny is playing is the best interest for the team, or whether he's keeping him on the pitch because he doesn't want to upset him, who knows? I hope it's the former, not the latter. But for me, I think that if there's going to be a time before the international break, well, there's only one more game before the international break. For me, I think it's now. But we'll see what happens. And
we'll move on. Here all night, me and you are stubborn fuckers.
We'll be looping. Listen, we got a new member. We got a new member. Kyle Patrick Vineyard has come on to become a Spurs talk show pony. Big up, Patrick. Big up, Kyle, mate. Good to see you, my man. Good to see you back.
News. That's his nickname. Bad News is his nickname, by the way.
Bad news. 5 times. He's also dropped the member for 2 months message. He says, come on, you Spurs. North London is white. I hate Arsenal. Big up, my man. Thanks for stopping by and for coming back on. We've also got some super chats from BB Bilal. Big up, my man. Haven't seen you before. He says no budging either side on Son's sub debate. Yeah, we were just going back on. No, I'm not going to concede here. The question is,
never concede.
Never, ever. If Son never comes alive, are you willing to stick with him if we start dropping points? Dave, I guess that's aimed at you, my man.
Well, we won't. Look, this happened a few seasons ago. I can't remember exactly what season it was, but it's still around the same time where some went into that season, didn't score goals. Still came out of the season, I think it was 15 plus goals. Look, I'll work off the old saying, form is temporary, class is permanent. I'll go off what Son's done over a number of years since 2015 being here. He's going to come good. It's inevitable. People said the same to me about Harry Kane. What if he doesn't? All this I keep hearing about Sonny. I heard the same at Harry Kane. Guess what? The boy came good, and so was Son.
Big up, BB Bilal. There you go, my man. Listen, I mean, once again, the way I always think of it is you're never going to know what would have happened if the other player was chosen. So you have to go with your heart as a Conte, as a manager. Go with your heart as a fan and say, who do you think deserves to be playing right now? Dave thinks Sonny does. I personally think that it's time to see the other option. Talking about Harry Kane, Americanka's come in. Big up, Americanka. Thank you so much for the super chat. She's saying the Irish Hotspurs' persistent defending of Harry Kane against all those crazy Murasexuals at the beginning of last season was inspirational. Big up.
Look, I appreciate that. Do you know what it was? Again, I work off the old saying. I knew it was going to happen. Look, it is what it is. I just work off that saying. when I see it, look, it happens time and time again. But I appreciate that. I'm never going to turn on Kane and Son ever. Not for what these guys have done, especially through the bad times. When it like, you know, we couldn't play what's right. Even on Jose Mourinho, when people said their goals were going to dry up, they still found a way to score goals, them two. And they're just going to come good again. But I appreciate that. And I was never going to give up on Harry. At least you find it inspirational. I still haven't heard from Harry what he thought of it.
Welcome to the Form is Temporary show, by the way, with me, Sean Butler, and Dave, the Irish Hotspur. Thank you so much, Americanka. Really appreciate that support. And Sebas Wolf is also here saying, I don't think Son is going to be rested against Leicester, but Decky is going to be starting for Emerson. Oh, wow.
Ooh,
okay.
Not bad. Oh, just looking at that's thinking outside the box, Sean.
Yeah, I like it. Would you like to see Decky at right wing back?
Look, I think he came on against Marseille and completely changed the game, didn't he? You know, he gave us a lot more going forward. But the first thing Cooley's actually done when he came on against Marseille, got on the ball, bet his man on the outside. And the same thing when he came on against the team the other day. He nearly won us a penalty. So for me, I think there's definitely a call for putting him at right wing back. I don't see why not. He's a big guy. He can defend.
Handle it. He can handle it.
He can go forward. He can definitely handle it.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing that. That'd be interesting, actually. Again, I'm not entirely sure if Conte is going to be brave enough to switch things up that much, but it's a really interesting call, Sebas Wolf, and I'll be up for it as well. The more Decky on the pitch, the better. And if that allows us to have space for the other three on the team as well, then makes sense to me. Something's got to change with the Emerson situation. Dave, have you got I've still got a few more questions. Have you got a few more minutes?
Oh, man, I have any time for you, Shawnee. You know that. Just quickly, though, bring up Nigel Watson's comment. He has the exact season there that I was talking about, 18-19 season. Sonny had 0 goals after 8 games and ended the season with 20. In Sonny we trust. Yeah. Big up, Nigel. But yeah, I couldn't remember the dates. I'm not great with it. I barely... Do you know what?
That was the Champions League year, wasn't it?
When we got knocked out of the group stages.
No, I thought that's the season when we went all the way to the final when Harry Kane got injured and Sonny kept us going in the second half of the season.
Yes. Spot on. Yeah.
Yeah, Harry Kane was the maestro in the first half, and Sonny really grabbed the ball by the horns in the second half. Yeah, but good shout, Nigel. Yeah, good shout. Listen, like I said earlier, I still think that Sonny's going to finish the season with 15 plus goals, maybe even 20. But you know, for me right now, I think the Leicester. We've spoken about it. All right, I've got a couple more questions, a couple more things for you, mate. First of all, just the Marcus Edwards, right? Just nip back to Sporting. I don't know if this makes any sense to you, but he's got a £52 million release clause, right? Genius from Daniel Levy. When he sold him, he put in a 50% sell-on clause. So technically, Tottenham could, if he continues well, if he continues to grow and have a fantastic season, Tottenham could pay Sporting 52 million, get 26 million quid back, a little bit of money laundering going on there as part of the deal. So technically, Marcus Edwards would be available for 26 million pound if we wanted to buy out the release clause. I mean, I know it's early days for Marcus Edwards. He did say after the game he would like to come back to the Premier League at some point. Do you think there's any possibility, or would you have any interest if Marcus Edwards continues to become an interesting player? Do you think there'll be any interest in that option?
I really liked him. What I saw of him, he's very direct, Shawnee. Very, very direct. If he can continue having a good back end of the season at Sporting, 100% I'd look at taking him back here next year. You know, if you're going for other players, like, you know, we were looking at like Zaniolo, stuff like that, you're talking 40, 50, 60 million. Just go and pay 25 million for this kid. You know, look, we have to remember this was a guy that Pochettino has said had Messi-like ability.
Messi, yeah.
You know, and then he became frustrated because he was believing in his own hype and he didn't get the first team opportunities. And it wasn't only him. Noni Madueke, that's at PSV. He's another one. You know, believed he was good enough. Not getting first team football. Okay, I'll leave. I'll go somewhere across Europe and back myself to get back to the Premier League. So if there's good if he continues on them numbers, I like him. Bring him back. He offers something that maybe we currently don't have, with someone with quick feet that can run at people directly and also has that magic moment in them where they can take 8 players out of the game and nearly score.
Yeah, for me, it's a bit too early. You know, one swallow doesn't make a summer, but he definitely, the game against Frankfurt and the game against Spurs, he was absolutely brilliant. And he did, you know, in the weekend game in the league as well. I think he got another goal and assist. So he looks like a real clever player. I don't know if we were
There's a lot of players coming out of Portugal at the minute, going across the various teams across Europe, even into the Premier League, and a lot of them are making a name for themselves. So Portuguese league seems to be a good schooling at the minute, and it's a lot of players seem to be coming out of there. So
I think that's what the Chelsea owner Todd Bowley, he's looking to buy a Portuguese football club or the investment group, so they can have a feeder club similar to what Manchester City did, similar to what I think Tottenham had one at one point, didn't we, in Belgium or somewhere? But nothing really ever came of it. Standard Liège or someone. I'm not sure who it was. Yeah, but there's a lot of clubs. Manchester United obviously have a couple as well. So be interesting. Yeah, and Portugal does seem to be a nice little cultivating pot for talent. All right, we'll put that one on ice. We'll wait and see if the guy continues to develop, and be interesting if Daniel Levy come up with an absolute stroke of genius there with a 50% sell-on clause. All right, mate. Listen, the elephant in the room.
Actually, I think Richard Pugh makes a good point, Sean.
Okay.
Didn't he sign from Guimaraes? So that sell-on clause will actually go back to them, not to Tottenham, because he went to a team out there before. He only moved to Sporting in January, actually.
Yeah, but I think from what I read in the article, at least, I don't know if they're accurate, but from what they said was it was 50% of any future sales, regardless of who's selling them, within the next 6 years or something. So even if Sporting were to sell him onto somewhere else, and we'd still get 50%. It's like a real detailed, long trickle effect. I don't know if there's any truth to that. I just read it in an article this morning, but apparently
Spurs, tax evasion.
Yeah, absolute robbery. But listen, we'll find out. Last one is the Conte to Juve rumours, my man. Italian journalist Paolo Bargigia has reported the reason the Italian is yet to fully officially extend his stay is that he is eyeing up an emotional return to Juventus. Current manager Allegri is under intense pressure following a dire start to the season, which has seen his team claim just 2 wins from the opening 6 in the Serie A and lost both their opening matches in the Champions League. And the article went on to say, if Juventus can find a way to hang on to Allegri until the end of the summer, then they would let him go. And that apparently Juventus, according to what this guy's saying, that Conte is desperate to go back. Now, I would point out that this journalist works for Calcio Mercato. So, I mean, they're like the Sun newspaper in Italy. Like, if you remember in the summer, every single day, Tottenham were linked with a player, according to Calcio. It makes for great content for us, but in terms of the frequency in which they ever turn out to be true, are you worried about it at all, my man? Do you think there's any truth to it?
Well, there's always an option there. Look, the guy has a year. He has an option to extend the contract by a year at the end of the season if he wants to. Now, me personally, as a manager, I would have extended that at the start going into the season to make sure the players know, you ain't getting me out of here. I ain't out of here in a year. So you continue to do what I asked you to do. And I think you might have seen probably improved performances at the start of this season. And it's been known with Conte. Ashley Young said it about time at Juventus. There's a couple of Chelsea players that have said it, and there's a few other players that have said it about Conte. His regime can become very, very taxing very, very quickly. Whether you're struggling with it mentally or whether you're struggling with it physically, it can come taxation very, very quickly. So, I wonder as well, I'm starting to think maybe is that starting to happen with some of these guys, because we've seen it under Jose Mourinho.
The 2-year rule, right?
Yeah, so I'm a bit hesitant with that. Look, I could understand if you want to leave Tottenham and go back to Juve, they will go out and try and buy him the very best in class for whatever position
They're broke though, aren't they? Aren't they completely almost as bankrupt as Inter?
Yeah, but look, we said this about Barcelona, and look what they're
doing. Yeah. They always find a quick 100 million under the sofa.
Of course they do. So for me, look, if Juve came calling, I couldn't see why he wouldn't go back. But at the end of the day, he's in the best league in the world up against 2 best managers in World Football, Klopp and Guardiola. So why wouldn't you want to stay? Look, as a Spurs fan, I'd love him to commit his future here. But at this moment in time, I think it's up to the players. I think it's up to them to prove to him why he should. Make sure we're in a good position in the league. We're taking every game seriously, challenging in the cups, get out of the group stage in the Champions League, and show him that he's building something and put questions in his head. Does he really want to walk away from something that he's building? And all the players adore him. So I think it's up to the players now. And I think he could be holding out to see whether we go again in January in the transfer window too.
Yeah, I would just like. I mean, I know that you can't stop these journalists saying this sort of thing. I think that stuff that might get in the head of Harry Kane. Harry Kane, I don't think signs a new contract unless Conte does.
Yeah.
And for me, it would be lovely to see Conte come out and say something categorically, unequivocally clear. Like, you know, it can have conditions with it, but like providing that the club, you know, do what's necessary in January, then I have absolutely no reason to leave this club, and you know, I'll happily commit my future or something to that end to reassure us, to reassure Harry Kane, because I think it's a chicken and the egg with Harry Kane as well. Who signs first? Does Harry Kane sign before Conte? Does Conte sign before Kane?
Kane's not tying himself down to a new contract if he knows there's a chance that the next manager after Conte could be another Nuno or something like that.
Correct.
He's not sticking around for that with him getting older. You know, he wants to win trophies. He'll stay around as long as we have a manager that he believes he can win trophies over. But regardless of who comes in after Conte, if Conte doesn't sign, I think Kane leaves regardless. I don't think he's going to stick around for another project.
Well, look, he's going to be 31, 32 by the time the contract was to run down anyway. You know, at that point, you know, Tottenham need to start thinking about the next 10 years. You know, we need to get somebody in, don't we? Whoever it might be. But at some point in the next couple of seasons, whether it's Harry Kane, or with Harry Kane signing an extension for 2 more years, it kicks the can down the road. It's a big can to kick, and it's an important can to kick. But at some point in the next 5 years, we're going to be a club that doesn't have Harry Kane, and it doesn't have Sonny. Right, and so we're going to... And who?
That hurts me.
And hurts, right? And no Hugo Lloris. So they're like, whilst we've got fairly young players coming through in certain positions, and we've got some stability, I think, for in what, you know, in quite broad areas of the park, in important areas, at some point we're going to have to face the reality that we are going to need to go and find a replacement. And I don't know how you replace or how you fill Harry Kane's boots, but for me, Conte coming out and saying something, maybe, like I said, have conditions attached to it, but unequivocally to kind of silence any rumours. I think that would go a long way to settling some nerves, because, I mean, the article might be complete nonsense, but then the article the other day that was coming out from the Sky reporter, the Sky Germany reporter, I forget his name, Plagety or something, who said that, you know, he knows 100% certain that Harry Kane, Charlie Kane at least, has been speaking to Oliver Kahn and the higher-ups at Bayern Munich. You know, when you start to hear that noise for both Conte and Kane maybe having their heads turned, you know, it's unsettling, isn't it? Especially when the performances of the team are not where they could be right now.
No, it is unsettling. And that Charlie Kane needs to be taken out to the back arse of nowhere and left there. You know, he keeps pushing me off that line.
He's trouble, isn't he?
It's him that's engineering these moves. It's him that engineered the one to City. It's him that's trying to engineer the one to Bayern Munich and stuff like that. And it's because he's an Arsenal fan. Someone just tell him to fuck off. Leave Harry. Harry, I'll be your agent, Harry. Come and get me. You know me. I love you probably more than what Charlie does, to be honest with you. So I will look out for your best interests. So make me your agent. Get rid of this fool.
Nice. If I was to put you, I've got one more question for you after this. But if I was to ask you to put a number percentage of how certain you are or how confident you are that both Harry Kane and Antonio Conte will be at Tottenham for the start of next season, what sort of percentage would you say?
It's 50-50. It's the way it is. It's 50-50. Like, the thing is with the two of them, I think Kane's got, 2 years left on his contract? I think
1.5 now, 1.5.
Conte's got 1 year. It's up to him whether he wants to extend it. You know, it's 50-50 at the minute. It really is. Like you said, look, if Conte signs, Kane will stay. If Conte doesn't sign, Kane will go. It's that simple.
Yeah, it's definitely a twofer program. All right, mate. Listen, I've loved it today. Last question, just quickly. What's your team? What's your changes you want to see for the Leicester game? Run me through your team, your starting 11, and what you'd like to see from the team, I guess, and a scoreline as well.
Hugo Lloris in goals. Before I move on, I want to talk about something just quickly, Shawnee.
Yeah, of course.
That high five and jerking circle that was going on, it really, really pissed me off. You know, like Hugo Lloris, instead of standing there taking the plaudits, I'm your hero, thank me. You know what I mean? Stand there and go, okay, Perisic, take your hand down for a minute. Why did he
focus? Yeah.
Same with Eric Dyer. Okay, Dyer, take your hand down for a minute. Why didn't you put your body on the line? Did you not learn from Brighton last season? Same with Davies. Get your hand away from me. Don't touch me. Block the ball. Go and take the player out. You know, it sends out the wrong message. The guy's supposed to be the oldest player in the team. hold people accountable, hold the standards. The reason why that goal from the corner kick happened is because they all thought it was okay. You know what they done, letting that guy come. You know, there was no one standing there. If someone stand there and bollocked them, they would have been alert. They would have said, okay, I'm fucking pissed off at you. Who does he think he is? Boom, I'll get rid of it. Job done. That's what a captain's supposed to do. Challenge your players, not stand there and all fist pump each other. And it reminds me of when Harry Winks high-fived Højbjerg when we were 3-0 down against Liverpool after he put one in and made it 3-1. Harry Winks comes over, good job, Pierre. And Pierre looks at him, he's like, losing 3-1, get back to fucking half it, like, you know what I mean? Like, this high-fiving crap has to stop. It's just got to stop. 87 minutes, and especially since Edwards danced through and nearly scored at the end of the first half, you think you'd say, okay, lads, anyone going to wake up here now?
Yeah,
focus. You know, remember it only happened like 48 minutes ago? You know, you're going to fucking wake up now? You know, it's, I have problems with that. The captaincy needs to be taken off him. But anyway.
And give it to who?
Højbjerg, Kane, you know, Romero, you know, someone that's going to lead by example most games. Yeah. You know, someone that's not afraid to speak to people or shout at people. Hugo Lloris, he may do it in the interviews, which I've seen him do. He may do it in the changing rooms or whatever. Do it on the football pitch. That's where I expect it. That's where you need it most. Not in and around the change room. Oh, how's the wife, kids today? No, I need it out on the football pitch. That's where I need it. But I would go Jed Spence right wing back. I'd go Perisic left wing back. Lenglet comes in for Davies along with Dyer and Romero. Midfield, I'd go with Højbjerg and Bentancur. And up front, I would go with Son, Kane and Kulu.
Lovely. I'd go with, and the scoreline?
Oh, I'm torn on this one. Let me tell you why, right? We've done the double over Leicester last season, and they matched us up both times last season. Brendan Rodgers, they're at the root of the table right now, and he still hasn't found a system that works. He's tried 4 at the back. He's tried 5 at the back. If they line 5 up the back, it's going to be a tough game. We've seen it when Brighton's done it to us, when Marseille done it to us, when Sporting done it to us. It's going to be a tough game. But at the same time, Liverpool, Man United, Chelsea, all bet Leicester this season. If we have aspirations of where we want to go, we better. But then I also watched them collapse against Brighton, and it's clear they want Brendan Rodgers out of there. So, I'm going to go 3-1, Sean. I'm going to go modest 3-1.
Interesting. Okay. Well, my formation is what I want to see is different to what I expect to see. But what I want to see is Jed Spence come in. I'm going to go the same as you, Romero, Dyer, and Longley. At the left wing back, I'll go for Perisic. Midfield 2, Bentancur and Højbjerg, and front 3, as you know by now, because I'm not going to change my mind either. Stecky, Kane, and Richie. But I don't think you're going to see Jed Spence. I think you're going to see everything else will be the same, but I think you'll see Emerson Royale, purely because Conte, this is the last thing I forgot to call out, Conte on Emerson. This is a quote he came out with earlier. In my opinion, Emerson had a good start in this season and he can play in this position. I'm happy with him. He could have scored 3 goals in the last game. Could have, should have, didn't. Right? Fucking absolutely ducked away from the header. He said he could have scored 3 goals in the last game. He has improved a lot last season. Don't forget, Emerson played every game in this period. For sure now, he can be a bit tired as a fullback. You can be fatigued. But he's happy with him. He absolutely loves the guy. So, I don't know. I think he's the only person in the Spurs. But I mean, I love Emerson as a person. I'm sure he's an absolute champion of a guy. I fell in love with him when he held up the flare against the Arsenal. But again, similar to Richie, I love their character. Yeah. But the performance on the pitch, I think you have to separate the two. But I do want to see Richie on the left hand side. My prediction, I like what you're going with it. A 3-1. I do think Leicester might score, but I think we're going to ultimately put 4 past them. So I'm going to go 4-1 to Tottenham. And because for those same reasons. Listen, we're going to leave it there. But before we do, I'm so sorry, Bobby K. I didn't even see this come through, my man. I've just seen it now with a super chat. He's saying, congrats on 3K, sure, mate. Well deserved. Thank you so much, Bobby. I really appreciate you and everybody else that stayed with us today. Dermatron, thank you so much for the super chat. Adrian Chia for the super chat. Dermatron again. Bobby, Americanka, Sebas Wolf, BB Bilal, and Kyle Patrick Vineyard for rejoining as a new pony member of the show. Thank you so much, everybody. Dave, what's happening on your channel, my man? Everyone knows where to find you, but is there anything coming up this evening?
Yeah, no, everyone, you can find me over at the Irish Hotspur. Yeah, we've got a show, basically same kind of debate shows we do every evening or most evenings, but we're doing it with some of the Irish lads to try and get them involved. Get some Irish Spurs fans out and get their voices heard. So we're going to do the Boys in Green show tonight, but it's still a debate show. We're going to be talking about Conte getting the players in training the same morning they landed when they were supposed to have the morning off and not come back to the afternoon. He made them turn up at 11. Is there a fear he could alienate the squad, some of the players against them, like they done, it happened with Jose and stuff like that, and the contract situation and stuff like that. So a lot to talk about tonight. And then what day is tomorrow? Friday. We usually run a fan show around 3 p.m. And then Saturday is the usual game day stuff, which I cannot wait for. So if you haven't, get over there and smash the subscribe button. There's always one or two of you that's lurking around that hasn't. So get over there and smash it. But also keep getting your support behind Shawnee Boy here. He's a good man, good lad, and he's very balanced in his views, and I like him, very level-headed. So he does good content as well. So smash the subscribe button here.
Cheers, Dave. Guys, get over to the Irish Hotspur. The link is in the description. You can see it there. Link is in the comments, rather. Big up to Dave. Big up to the Irish Hotspur, the Flat Cap Army. Thank you to everybody that has stopped by this evening. If you haven't already, please smash that like button one last time. Although if you've already hit it, don't hit it again because we don't want the likes to go down. We want the likes to go up. You know the rules. Let's try and get some more subscribers if anyone hasn't already. Love you all. Until next time, as always, guys, as always,